I'm Shelace Shoemaker, and I'm a figure pro for the IFBB. Like we were just talking about Olympia, I made the Olympia stage last year for 21 and 22, so the last 2 years in a row. Um, I've been doing this. I started my bodybuilding, as far as bodybuilding goes, I started in 2009. I was 29 years old. And then I took some time off. I went to school to get my master's degree. And then just life happened. And, I always would go to the local shows and watch, and I'll be back there someday. I'll be back there someday. And then 2016, decided to come back and competed at the amateur level still. I was in the MPC, and then did 4 shows there, 2 local, 1 in California. And then I did, I'm sorry, my first show back was in California, then 2 local here in Reno, and then back into California. And then I did Pittsburgh Masters, earned my pro card there in 2017. And then, pro shows from then on. And then, like I said, 21 and 22 on the Olympia stage.
So what got you back into it during that 2016?
It was, like I said, like that whole time I would go and watch the local shows, watch my friends and kind of support them. And I missed it. I missed it. I told myself after my first show, I will never do that again, because my experience was awful. And just my reverse diet and stuff, because I wasn't coached out of that show or anything. And, I'm never going to put myself through that again. But I loved it. Like, I loved going to the shows. I loved being a fan of it. It was always just, it was still there. I still needed a goal. And then 2016, we were just having a backyard barbecue with some friends, and one of my girlfriends said, "Hey, I think I want to do a show. Will you do one with me?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." I had the time. I had the finances. My daughter was a little bit older. So, I looked at my husband and I said, what do you think? I'd love to do another show. And he's like, "Yeah, we can do it right now. We can pull it off." So, started to train, and my girlfriend didn't end up competing and I did. So here we are.
And what did you do that second time around to kind of mitigate the fear of, what happened the first time?
I think a lot of it was the experience, first of all, like knowing that coming off of that first show, my diet went right back to my old habits, like processed foods, and I wasn't watching what I was eating, and, picking up fast food on the way home. And so I went from, like I said, that kind of a diet where I wasn't watching anything, I was eating crap, and then to a very, very strict diet. And then I just went right back to those old habits. And that clearly didn't work. So I think over those years, like knowing I had to get back to a healthier lifestyle. So I had all of those years of experience of getting back into a healthy lifestyle, getting back into the gym, getting back into, those daily habits and those daily routines, and making health a priority. And then I think just being smarter about my post show, and knowing that I couldn't do what I did then and maintain that health, because it was not good.
And
After my first show.
Since you're, getting back into it, that you were sitting there, you were thinking, I'd like to do this. This is something I'm interested in. And then, your friend's like, "Hey, let's do this." And that was kind of like that final push to get you back into it. At that point, were you thinking like, this is something I'm going to do like seriously, and I'm going to take it to this level, and I'm going to go to the Olympia? Or what in your brain was like your plan after that show?
No. So when I had talked to my husband about it, I said, I just wanted to do these 2 shows. So there was one actually there were the 2 local shows I was talking about. So Nevada State here in Reno, and then there was the Tahoe show. Chris Menez does a great job of marketing the Tahoe show. And I said, I really want to be on the Tahoe show stage. So I had talked to my coach, and I told him that I wanted to do these 2 shows. And he said, well, why don't we do one in California first? I'd like to take you to this one. So then I went to a Spectrum show in California, and then I did these next 2 shows. And then so during that time, it was just like, okay, we're just going to do these 3 shows, and I'm good. I just want to get back into it again. I want to feel that discipline. I want to reach that goal. I want to see what I can do. And that's all I had planned at that point. But then, of course, I did very well. So in Nevada State, I won the overall, and then the Tahoe show, I won the overall. And then I was like, well, maybe I have potential. Maybe I do need to be in this sport. So I think winning the overall in those two shows was like, maybe I could go somewhere with this. And it kept, it fueled the fire for sure.
And then after you kind of had that realization of like, okay, maybe I'm pretty good at this, I have some potential here. What did you take any steps after that as far as like, you know, more intensity, more optimization, hiring a coach, hiring maybe a different coach? Like what did you do anything to help take yourself to the level that you maybe saw yourself being having the potential to get to?
Um, so I remained with the same coach because obviously we were doing something right. So, and then about 6 weeks prior to going to Pittsburgh, I had fired that coach and I was going to be done bodybuilding. Had no intentions of ever stepping on stage again. I was angry and my health was not in a good spot. And that was why I was angry. So, I was going to be done. And then I hired another coach, Julie Mayer out of Las Vegas. And I asked her to get me to Pittsburgh, and if she thought I had the potential to get there, and she said, "Absolutely, I do. I think you could win your pro card." So I'm like, "All right, let's try it out." And it was, like I said, the Masters show. So I think it was 35 and over, and I just turned 36 that year or 37. So I was like, all right, let's try it. Let's give it a go. And I tell everybody, I laugh about it because I did not think I was going to earn my pro card. I went by myself, told my husband to stay home. And that's where I earned it. So, so then of course, from there, again, it fueled the fire again. Let's keep on going. Let's see what else we can do. So it was a process because, like I had said, like the first coach I had, it was not about health. It was more about just getting up on stage and doing whatever we could do to win a show. And it was like the diet itself was not healthy, and like I was falling asleep on my way to work, and I was 20 minutes from work. Like it's not like it was a long drive or anything, and so I knew something wasn't right. And I'm like, I don't need to put myself through this. There's no reason for bodybuilding, something that I'm not getting paid to do. This is not my career. This is not my job that I need to be putting myself in this situation where I didn't feel good. So that was why I said, no, we're done at this point. I don't even want to compete anymore. But then I don't know, I was, 6 weeks out from Pittsburgh. And I'm like, but I'm right there. I'm right there. Like, what can I do? And this was also coming off, I should rewind a little bit and say, prior to this also, I went to my fourth show that I was talking about back in California was a Spectrum show. And Sandy was the head judge of that show. And she had taken me off the backstage and asked me to come talk to her. And she said, you need to get to a pro show and go win your card. She said, quit doing these regional shows, go to a national show and get your card. So then, of course, I had Sandy in the back of my head, but I'm 6 weeks out from Pittsburgh. I can't quit now. Sandy said I need to be at the show. So I wanted, and I knew Sandy obviously was going to be the judge there too. So I'm like, I can't let this opportunity pass me. I can't let this go. So that's why I went ahead and, reached out to Julie and I said, Julie, I know it's only 6 weeks, but what do you think about taking me on? So thankfully she took me on and got me where I needed to be.
And I think it's such a vulnerable place that a lot of athletes are in those first few shows, especially the first show, without a doubt. You gain some wisdom, a little bit of wisdom through that first show, but even a few after that, I feel like it's such a vulnerable place for athletes because it's like I think the thought is like the more I suffer, the better I'm going to do. And so as an athlete, you're sitting there thinking, oh man, I feel terrible, or all these different things that they're going through your head, but that's what I have to do to get to the point where I want to be. That's this is just what this sport is. And I think so many times that can lead to an athlete getting injured, that can lead to an athlete's health going, really down, and a coach not knowing what to do in that situation whenever, it's like I can get you to a prep and I can get you to X amount of weeks into a prep, but after that, some coaches may not have that true knowledge about human health and about, how things work within the body to keep you from going downhill too fast. And that's something I've noticed from people the last year talking to athletes and coaches as well. It's something that actually, we're starting something on within the weight room where we're trying to, gather a collection of good coaches, so somebody can go somewhere that has, whether it's bodybuilding, whether, it's something specifically within bodybuilding. So to help mitigate that, because it's good for everyone. It's good for the sport. It's good for the athlete. It's good for the good coaches out there. And, nowadays with social media, anybody can become a coach. You can do a show and all of a sudden I've been through it. I know what to do. I can help people through this. And then you go hurt an athlete and then they're out of the sport forever. And that, that the reputation of the sport, it takes a hit for, one hit, then it takes another hit when another athlete does it. So, it's just something that we've heard so many times here on the podcast is like people get almost driven out of the sport and they think that it is the sport that is doing it, when in reality, it's just people that they sometimes hire that don't have all the information. So I think, it's really, it's powerful for you to be like, you know what, I'm done with this person. They got me to a certain position, but that they're not doing me necessarily any favors anymore. So I need to get out from under this situation and find somebody who really does know what they're doing.
Yeah, and it was hard because like I had said, in the back of my mind, I was like, this person got me 2 overalls. Like I just won 2 shows with this person, so they must clearly know what they're doing. But like I said, it was just, I knew something wasn't right. And I guess this is the positive side of social media a little bit, is because the people I was following then, the Sandra Grajales, Jessica Reyes, I was following a lot of these pros on social media, and they're getting ready for shows, and I'm looking and I'm watching what they're eating, and they're like, and I'm like, well, why can't I have that? Why does every single meal have to be this? But they're eating that. So, and I was asking questions and not getting the answers I needed, or answers, period. And so it was a hard shift, but I knew I needed to do it for my health, for sure. So, like I said, switching over Julie was awesome, and it was really great because it's the first time in prep and the first time since that I got dessert for a cheat meal. But I was so underfed that she was trying to feed me at that point. She's like, "Yeah, have a brownie, have a cookie, have something." So yeah, first and only time, but
So
it was good. I needed it.
going into that national show, even though you were coming off having won before, and that's something that a lot of people never experience, and having won twice, what kind of like, what was there any intimidation factor? Like, oh my gosh, look at these competitors. Like I've seen the other, the regional before, but now I'm on this national level. What was the thought for you on that?
Yeah, and especially Pittsburgh Masters, because I mean that show itself it's the Teen Collegiate Masters Nationals, and that, or championship, excuse me, and that's a huge show. I mean, we're all split into, it's like 4 or 5 days long. We all have our certain day that we're going, and you're backstage and you're just looking around. You're like, oh my gosh, is she my height? Is she my height? Because the NPC division, it's all by height. So going around going, these physiques are just phenomenal. So intimidation factor 100%. But then another little story about that is I was also on stage, which at the Spectrum show, I actually didn't win that show. I got third and second. And yeah, third and second. And then so the girl that beat me, that did get first place, was there at Pittsburgh. So I'm like, well, shoot, she's here. She just beat me, I think it was like 2 or 3 months before. I was like, oh no. So again, another intimidation factor because she's there. She's already beat me. Did I just waste a trip here? So yeah, absolutely. But what I loved also about it was a very different experience backstage. Everyone was, super friendly, super helpful. Where at the regional shows, we all kind of kept to ourselves. If you weren't on our team, you don't talk to the other team, that kind of thing. But at the national level, everyone's talking about, hey, what are you eating after the show? What do you want? Hey, did you find a place? Do you have a good place? Hey, can you recommend a place? That kind of stuff. So it was a fun experience, but intimidating 100%, just because I mean the caliber at national shows is, everyone jokes it was a stacked class. Yeah, it's nationals. It was a stacked class, and it was great. It was fun.
And why do you think that that is, as far as like what you're talking about backstage, just the more openness when you get to that national level? Is it kind of like this at the regional, like people are more new into it and it's more almost like a fear of, you know, don't tell them our secrets or don't, what is it about it that just makes it more open?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of that. And you know what? I'll say this. That was 6 years ago. I see it's very different now from my point of view as a coach. And when I see backstage with my competitors and stuff, it's not like that anymore. They're all now talking to each other. So I don't know if it was just the particular shows I picked. Maybe it's me because I'm an introvert and I don't talk to people either. But I don't know. I think, like you said, a lot of it's like, yeah, don't go talk to that group because, don't tell them our secrets. Don't show them what we're doing. Don't show them what we're eating right now. So we'll stay over here in this corner. You guys stay over in your corner. It was definitely a team thing, but yeah, I don't know, but I definitely think it's changed because, like I said, with my athletes, I've seen a very different side of it than I did when I was a competitor.
And then once you got that pro card, it's definitely like this achievement that sets you apart. I feel like bodybuilding is such like a niche, and people within bodybuilding, just in general, like you talk to a person off the street, they're not really going to know the difference between a nationally qualified person or like an IFBB pro, or even somebody who's only done 2 or 3 shows versus somebody who's doing really well in the sport. Like, you're not going to know that much difference if you're just a person off the street, because everybody really realistically has like this like 1% physique already, and you're doing things that really is like a 1% thing even within the fitness community. But once you reach that pro level, what did you do to take your training, take your nutrition, take your recovery to that next level so you could continue to, become even more of a niche within a niche?
I think that's so much. One, I educated myself. I continue to educate myself on nutrition and training because I was training myself. No one was writing my programs, so I was watching and learning, and going to the all the brilliant minds that I could think of, and right now they're all or like Brett Contreras. Learning from all these people that are talking about how to build muscle. Watching Flex Lewis or whoever it was, Arnold, and what they did in the gym, reading Arnold's encyclopedia. Okay, what are they doing? So it was a lot of educating myself on training aspects that could help me be better. But then also recovery. Like before it was grind, grind, grind. Like you said, the suffering. I'm not suffering enough. I need to be doing this 7 days a week. If I miss a day, I'm gonna lose out on all my gains. I was going 7 days a week for a very long time, and now I realize that we need to have those recovery days. Maybe you don't need to go 7 days. It could be 4. It could be 5. Like, it doesn't have to be 7 days a week. Cardio doesn't have to be as much as it is. So, you know, mitigating all of those kind of stresses in your life to make sure that your body is as functioning as optimally as it could. I brought up the recovery. I now go get massages twice, sometimes 3 times, sometimes 4 times a month. Active body work, scraping, all of that kind of stuff. Nothing I did before as an amateur, but I make it a priority now because I know that my body needs that. I'm beating myself up in the gym. That is now an essential side of that. So definitely the recovery side has helped. And then really it has become a lifestyle. Like it's not, I'm going to eat like shit today and tomorrow it's going to be great. No, I'm on it all the time. I think yeah, for the past 6 years, I've weighed pretty much all of my meals. Like they're all, besides my cheat meals or post show meals or whatever. But I'm tracking. I am making sure that I am fueling my body optimally. Where before it was just like, oh, I'm eating. At least I'm eating something today. So it's making a lot of things those habits and those routines and that type of lifestyle a lifestyle, and it's 24/7.
Right. And, a lot of people within fitness, within bodybuilding, training is something that, almost comes naturally. It's something that a lot of people enjoy. For you, is that the case? And if so, like, is the recovery stuff almost like more challenging? Is it almost like something that you find yourself like, this is, I understand the benefits of it and understand like how it's helping, but and it could be nutrition too, but like, is there something about, I guess really any aspect of what you have to do as a bodybuilder that is maybe less than, I don't want to say you don't necessarily enjoy it, because enjoying something is almost like sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But is there an aspect of it that you're like, I'm kind of partial to this?
That's a great question. I don't know. Like you said, I think if you want to be a pro and compete as a pro and take this seriously, like, I mean, you have to love every bit of the process. um, Gosh, did you ask is there one I was more partial to or one that I did not? I
One that you're
don't
just,
particularly
yeah,
like.
not particularly fond of.
It's not that I'm not fond of it, but I think out of all of them, I think recovery or like taking care, like body work is probably my least, because I can go to the gym, I'm in my kitchen, I'm at my house, but like making the time to go see someone to get body work, I'm definitely not as good at it. Like I said, sometimes it's twice a month, sometimes it's 3 times, sometimes it's four. It just depends on, if I remember to schedule it. So I'm not as on top of it as I should be for sure. So I guess that would be the one that I'm just not as good at as the others.
And another aspect you could throw in there is posing as well. When you got to that pro level and then even to the Olympia level, what did you see, you could throw all, posing in there, and we're going back to the diet, nutrition, the training, and the recovery. What did you see as maybe one of like the biggest things that, and at that level, everybody's doing it all, but like maybe the thing that just gets a little bit less attention than the others?
Yeah, and I think at the pro level, again, I think that's just something you make a priority too. I will say over the years, I've made it more of a priority to get coaching versus just doing it. Making sure I'm going out and reaching out to the right people for posing, especially. So, just a really quick little story. So, for the Olympia last year compared to the Olympia this year, like I was not happy at all with any of my Olympia pictures from my first year, and that was my own fault because my posing was awful. I did horrible, and so there was not one single photo that I was like, oh, okay, that really looks like me. That like represents what I feel like I look like on stage. So that was definitely one thing that I said, I'm not going to embarrass myself like that again on stage. Do I feel like I need a lot of practice posing? 100%. It's not my favorite. I don't like being the center of attention. I know I picked the wrong sport for that, but yeah, I definitely something I still need to work on. But I think, like I said, as a pro, you need to know that you, your physique is being displayed on stage, and if you can have the best physique, and if you're not posing properly, you're not going to win anything. So I think we should be making that a priority. And I definitely, as an amateur, it wasn't a big deal. I was hammering the nutrition, I was hammering the workouts. That's all that mattered, because I was building the physique I needed, but it wasn't a priority to learn how to display it properly.
This episode is brought to you by Move Your Body Apparel, a Lexington-based, community-ran premium activewear brand that promotes the importance of daily movement. Save 20% off your first order with the link below, or use code TWR20. Online at mybapparel.com.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below. I think posing is it's interesting because, like you said, you can think like you're looking like one thing, and then another person's perspective is completely different. And you almost have to have like this third person view of yourself if you really want to be good at posing, because you're obviously not going to be able to like look, oh, is this, looking the way I want it to look? And you can't, do that kind of thing on stage. So you almost
we also have to remember that the judges have a very different view than we're looking at in the mirror. If we're watching ourselves in a mirror, that's a very different view than what the judges have. So we have to, like, I film myself all the time and I put my camera lower just to see what it would look like at the judge's perspective. But even still then, I'm like, sometimes what I see in the hotel room right before I step on stage does not look anything like what happens on stage.
And you have to know, like, these 1-degree angle changes, like, oh, that makes this thing come out and this makes the other thing go away. And like, it's so fascinating how, like, if you really, have your posing down, like how well, what, geometry is changing your body to look a certain way. It's just crazy to think that, you put in, and that it kind of goes back to all of it really, but how you put on so much work and effort and sacrifice, whether you want to call it, negatively or positively sacrifice, but, you're doing all these things, and then you get on stage and it comes down to, it's a performance in a way, but then again, it's not a performance, but it's crazy how months and years of doing the same thing come down to, just a few minutes of trying to like almost show somebody, hey, this is what I did. And you're like moving your body around and like showing somebody like, hey, like this is what we worked on. This is the things we did. This is this, it's just amazing to me kind of like how bodybuilding as the lifestyle translates to bodybuilding on stage.
Yeah. And definitely still something, like I said, like I know that my stage presence needs a ton of work. And that's probably, I don't know, the most frustrating part for me, because I'm working on it, and it doesn't translate like, the nutrition and the workouts do. That looks like it's working, but yeah. I mean, and I tell that to my competitors all the time too. I said, you have like, watch yourself, film yourself, because what you're seeing in the mirror is not the same as what the judges are seeing. So, and, I'll send them, when they're sending me videos, like, watch how much it just changes by you shifting your elbow forward a little bit, or, twisting just a little bit more this way, or, your foot angle brings out your quad versus this. And then showing them that difference and not just telling them. So when they actually see that it does make that difference, then, they get those aha moments. But yeah, it's all that hard work. You don't want to mess it up for a few seconds on stage where you're not hitting it.
Yeah. And then you have to, remember all those different, little cues. Oh, is my foot this way or is it that way? Is my elbow, is my shoulder, you have to take all that into consideration. And then you're doing multiple poses, and it really is, it's amazing, like how good it really can go when everything kind of is going smoothly. And kind of in those regards, like moving to this most previous Olympia, tell us a little bit, kind of like go through your prep a little bit, what some of the good things were, like, oh, these are some of the things maybe that I learned along this journey, this prep. What are some of the challenges as well that you went through during that prep?
So, well, like I talked about, I knew I had to work on my posing. So I ended up hiring Sharonica Hinton, who's a physique pro, and I learned so much from her, not just the posing side of it, but when she was talking to me about like TVA work to bring in my waistline, ways to lift differently so that I can engage certain parts of my body that also then translated to posing, and how I, flexing my calves would bring in my hamstrings. So I think as far as that, like, I've never worked so hard on posing in the gym and in posing practice. Like, even like I said, with my lifting, and translating that into posing. So that was like one of the biggest changes that I made this year. And I told her after the Olympia, I said, "You're stuck with me. Sorry, I'm not going anywhere," because I learned so much from her. And then one of the biggest challenges I had this time around was, so I have some GI issues going on. And so I found out like a month and a half prior to the Olympia that I had H. pylori. And so learning how to manage that while on prep, which was somewhat easy because we have a very strict diet anyways, and we're not eating a lot of the things that we're supposed to get rid of, like dairy and gluten and that kind of stuff. But still trying to manage that was, and try to heal those digestive issues, something I hadn't had to deal with before. So, and they flare up super quick, like any stress, cortisol levels, all that kind of stuff. So I was dealing with that prior to the Olympia, and I currently am now too. So that was something different that I haven't before any other prep. So, and again, that was me reaching out and being an advocate for my own body, because I'm getting older. There's some things coming up that my body's like, "Hey, you're an old lady now." I'm not an old lady, but like, you're getting older. Start taking care of yourself. So a lot of things that I hadn't prepared for that ended up coming up right before the Olympia.
And is that something that is contributed to the diet, or is it just contributed to genetic? What is that contributed to?
So with mine, it's just a lot of like the foods that I eat. So then I did find out I was allergic to, so egg whites. I eat egg whites every day. I could eat egg whites for every single meal, and I love egg whites. And I was eating them a ton. Well, then I found out I'm highly allergic to them. So I had to totally change my nutrition at that point. And then, tilapia, I don't eat a ton of, but, finding out I was allergic to that. So having to switch that out. Not too sad about that one. But yeah, so just having to change up just some of my nutrition, like I said, which wasn't too difficult. And I don't know if I answered your question. What was your...
If it was more based on like your genetics, like if it was just predisposed almost, or if it was just based on...
No, and that kind of stuff can just come from, just the food you eat. I forget all the reasons. She told me, I only kind of paid attention, but no, it's more just what you're eating. And then it could be transferred. Like if my husband had it and I was kissing him, I could get it transferred that way, like if he has it. So yeah.
Gotcha. One of those things. Yeah, there's a lot of different kind of routes for it.
Yeah.
Something that is too fascinating to me, and we kind of touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but is like the whole experience of the Olympia, and how it's really more than just like, this is the competition. You come in, you do the competition, you leave. There's so much surrounding the event that truly is the event itself, that makes the Olympia special. And it makes it, like we were talking about, feel like it's, it's something for the athletes, like a lot of the shows are, but also for the fans, where we can interact, we can, have all these different things. So how, as an athlete on your side of it, how do you manage the event and all the emotions that come along with the event, and I'm so excited for this aspect, and, forgetting about the stage, like how do you do all that, stay in a routine, keep your hormones, normal as you can be during that time, and like and still stay focused for the show itself?
That's a fantastic question. But yeah, the Olympia definitely does come with, like the meet and greet and all of that kind of stuff prior to the show that we don't normally have. Like, the night before the show, usually before any other show, we're laying in bed, feet up. You relax, get off your feet, don't do anything. We don't want to do anything that's going to make you hold water. It's chill and watch Food Network. And then the night before the Olympia for us, it was we're at the meet and greet up on our feet, talking to people, being around people, surrounded by people, staying out later than we would, because normally, he'd like us to be sleeping at a certain time, or at least, in bed, relaxing at a certain time, while we're up later than we normally would be. So definitely dealing with a different situation for sure, because and I'll say this again, going back to my introvertedness, I mean, that does raise my cortisol a little bit, because now I'm surrounded by a lot of people and having to talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people I don't know, and carry on conversations. And so, maybe that could raise my cortisol levels, or, the stress levels, whatever it is. So definitely a little bit of different atmosphere, but I think it's also, it's definitely a different vibe too, because then you are getting to meet these people and you realize the impact or the inspiration or the motivation that you're giving them. And then you carry that with you the next day. You're on this kind of a little bit of a high as well too, because you're like, oh shoot, like this, it's not just me in my own little world at the gym where I think I'm working out and I'm staying low and I'm just plugging away, grinding away. I also have these other people who have been following my journey and are here to watch me, or, here to watch us. And they're also there just to kind of continue to be inspired by us. So it's also, like I said, you're carrying that high as well too. And it's a pretty cool vibe, but yeah, definitely different than any other pro show, because normally we'd be chill and then, and it's not the case the night before for us, for the figure girls at least.
And then, you have the competition. What does it feel like? And we kind of touched on a little bit before, but like, what is that emotion that you experience when you're on stage and you do realize that, like, I'm at the highest level and this is great, but I only have like this limited time to experience like this specific moment, and I only have a limited time to show off what I've done. What is that like? Do you even think about that while you're on stage, or is it just like going through what you've practiced?
I think I personally get that feeling backstage. Like when we're lining up and they finally get us to line up, like, and you're looking at all the other competitors. And again, like I said, all these women that you've looked up to and been inspired by prior when you were an amateur, and you're standing in line with them and you're like, oh my gosh, there's Sid. Oh my gosh, there's Jessica Reyes. Oh my gosh, there's Natalia. You're looking at all of these women going, I'm with these girls. I'm with these women. Like, this is badass. So that's when that moment hits. And you just kind of just soak it in and absorb it and go, holy crap, like I got here. Like, and it's a really neat feeling. As far as being on stage, I hear nothing. Like, I'm up on stage and all I'm sitting there thinking about is, okay, what am I supposed to do here? I'm supposed to pause here. Where's Sandy? Where are the other judges? Where's the camera guy? Like, I don't even know what music's playing. I hear nothing. So it's just, I'm in my own head, like, just make sure you're doing this, make sure you're doing this, I can hear my posing coach in my head. I can hear Damien in my head, my nutrition coach. Like, I can hear all of that. But as far as the music and the crowd and all of that, I hear absolutely nothing.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout. This episode is brought to you by Move Your Body Apparel, a Lexington-based, community-ran premium activewear brand that promotes the importance of daily movement. Save 20% off your first order with the link below, or use code TWR20. Online at mybapparel.com.
And you mentioned like getting to be around these people who you looked up to for years, and as an amateur, you're sitting there thinking, wow, these people are at the top of the sport. They're doing amazing things. What do you feel like though, if you do learn anything, like specifically at that event, what do you feel like you learned from the people that you've, looked up to for years, and now you're like, you're experiencing this experience along with them?
Well, I think the first thing that popped to my head was they're still people too. I mean, and they're wonderful people, and they'll sit and chat with you. So I still have to remember that, yes, I looked up to them just like some people are looking up to me, and that they're still people too. And, and you watch and observe them, very chill, very kind, very, from the ones I've met, very genuine. So yeah, you just kind of just sit back and observe, and yeah, just they're just a different. I mean, I guess it's just that I'm here to compete, but I'm also here to I'm here to be an athlete and take some names. So it's I don't know, it's just kind of fun to watch how they all um I guess not react, but how they are backstage and stuff, just to see. And it's just, I mean, it's just chill backstage. So it's just kind of fun to watch that side of them
Yeah.
for sure.
I think being introverted, it's almost like an experience where you can sit back and like actually watch people and kind of observe and see kind of how they're acting. I can, I'm definitely can relate to that myself, being introverted. You have this opportunity to almost like detach yourself from the situation in a way and like experience it as like you're in it, but you're also kind of observing it.
100%. That's all I do is I'm just absorbing the energy from everyone else, and just kind of, yeah, just taking in the moment, because who knows how many of those are I have left. And just kind of just watching and seeing and observing and listening to see how everyone interacts with each other. And yeah, and that's what I do. I'm a listener, and I love just enjoying that moment, especially at the Olympia level. Like, not many people get to say that get to be backstage or on stage at the Olympia. And so just observing every single moment and memory and taking it all in and just cherishing that moment at that time.
And what do you feel like, you know, there's certain experiences and opportunities in life that not everybody gets to participate in, kind of like you mentioned, like there's only a certain amount of people who step on stage ever, for an Olympia, from the beginning of the Olympia till the end of the Olympia, there's only going to be a set number of people. You could throw that into any category. There's only a certain number of people who are going to have a NBA championship, or a certain amount of people who are going to do whatever, be the CEO of this company. Or so what do you feel like personally, having experienced something that is like this limited experience? And I'm thinking about it. I've never like accomplished anything like that, but I've ran a marathon. So like, I can't remember the exact percentage of people, but it's like a small percentage of people who ever finish a marathon. And it doesn't like make you feel like, oh, I'm special, but it makes you feel like, or at least in my experience, it was almost like I've done something. Like I've proven to myself that I can do these things that set me apart, and that I can, like, if I choose to set my mind to something, I'm going to get it done. So that's kind of like what I took away. But what did you take away from the experience of like getting to do something that so few people will ever get to do?
So the whole time you were talking about that, I was kind of thinking about, so every time, like after the Olympia, a lot of people would come up and go, "Hey, what place did you get?" Well, I didn't place the top 15, so I was 16 somewhere. Here's what I think I got based off of where I was in the lineup. And everyone's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And then I just kind of laugh. I'm like, you do realize that, yeah, I didn't place where I wanted to. I didn't place in the top 15, and not in the top 10, not in the top 5. Sure. Was that my goal? 100%. That should be all of our goals when we get there. But you realize I was at the Olympia. Like, how many football players get to say they were at the Super Bowl? How many, like, I was still there. Like it, and I have to remind myself of that too, because like I said last year, at my first Olympia for 21, I was embarrassed by, I think I got dead ass last. So, and when I watched back and I said, yeah, I got dead ass last. And then my husband's like, but you were at the Olympia. Like, no, not a lot of people get to say that. And so he kind of humbled me a little bit and reminded me that, there's a lot of figure girls out there, a lot of figure pros out there that did show after show after show and didn't get this opportunity to be there. And I did. So, I honestly, I'm just honored and humbled every single time, or the last 2 times that I've been there, that, yeah, maybe I didn't place where I was, but I get this opportunity and I got this opportunity that so many other girls have been fighting for, or, been years and years and years in this, or like I said, multiple shows throughout the year, running their body into the ground, trying to earn those points or whatever it is, and never getting this chance. So I'm up there and I got that chance, and I'm just grateful that I got to say that I've been on the stage twice.
Yeah. And to do it once and then to do it again, I can only imagine like the first time it's this completely different experience than the second time.
Yes, very. And like I said, you're kind of just walking around going, oh my gosh, there's Sid, and I've worked with Sid as a posing coach. We have the same coach. It's not like it was my first time meeting her or anything, but she's top of the world, and 6 times and she's right there. And so and then walking around, and it not only just Sid in the figure division, but you're walking around and you're seeing every single bodybuilder who's anybody in this one venue. And not just the ones that are there for the Olympia now, but all the past, all the everybody that I could think of, Sean Ray, Linda Murray, they're all walking around. You're like, oh my gosh, all of these people that are like the history of bodybuilding are standing in front of you. And it's a trip for sure, because you're just like, I'm here. Like, these people I'm in the same room with all these people. Like, this is so cool. So yeah, the second time around, it was like that rookie feeling. It was definitely not there anymore. I've had my experience. I've been to several shows with these people now. And so definitely a little bit more experience, but it's still just as cool, because the Florida vibe was very different than the Vegas vibe. And so, I'm glad that I got the chance to be in the Vegas vibe as well as the Florida vibe, because it's definitely a different culture than the Florida vibe for sure.
And, mentioning kind of the past and getting to see those people who came before you, when you're looking and you're watching a sport, I remember, specifically in my life, like growing up watching high school football, you see, if you're like 6, 7 years old, these realistically still kids playing football, you're watching them. They look huge though. They look like grown men. And then, you get to high school and it's like, oh, these are just kind of like, still kids. They're my age people. This is just like another game in a way. It's very interesting the way that like you look at something at 2 different ways. But how did the way that you looked at the Olympia change when you finally got to experience it versus when you're, I just remember like looking at, you mentioned Arnold before, watching the old, I can't remember the documentary, what it's called, but, watching that documentary and like seeing,
Pumping Iron.
Yeah, Pumping Iron, and like seeing these events and like being like, oh my gosh, like it looks so like the mystique, and it still is that mystique for me, because obviously I've never competed, but like what did that, was there any change for you whenever you actually got to be a part of it from an athlete perspective?
Yeah, so I had attended, like I said, the Olympia, just as a participant, or as what am I trying to say? As
kind of like a fan.
A fan. Thank you. Really tough word. As a fan several years ago, and at that time, I think it was more like the influencers that I was so excited about, walking around the expo and seeing all the influencers, like Robin Dana Lynn Bailey there. Yes, she was an athlete, but now she's also an influencer, and seeing her with her husband and them at their booth and all of that kind of stuff. And So at that point, it was just kind of cool just to see all these people that were just in the business, and not really the competitors. Like I wouldn't watch the show, but I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, whatever. Um, but it was more like standing in the long lines to go see people, seeing it from the perspective of an athlete and the amount of respect that I think shifts also because you have that, I don't know, I guess the same attitude and the same mindset. That's what I'm looking for. The same mindset that they have, and shifting it to that athlete mindset, and walking around and seeing the athletes and the bodybuilders and your competitors, but who are also your friends. You've gained these friends over the years you've been competing as a pro too at the same shows and all of that. It's definitely, I don't know, that perspective is shift to just total just respect and admiration for these people that are living the same lifestyle as you, and the ones that you've kind of monitored your lifestyle after because they have made such an impact on you, by watching their journeys. So it's definitely, it's a neat shift to go from both sides. But then it's also, I guess, awkward in a little bit of a way because, a little bit of an imposter syndrome. I'm gonna throw out that word again, because I forget I'm also one of them. I'm a professional athlete too. People look at and follow me, and they're running up to me like, oh my God, like I said, oh my gosh, I follow you on Instagram. I'm like, I don't know who you are, but okay. So it's kind of, it's neat to be on that side of things too. And forgetting that I'm having that same impact that these people had on me.
Yeah. I think it's funny that you mentioned the imposter syndrome. I think so many people can relate to that, unless you have I feel like unless you have this just super confidence, almost like an overconfidence, you typically see yourself as doing, it's just your life. At a certain point, it's just the things that you do, and it doesn't seem special anymore. It doesn't seem like if you threw somebody into your lifestyle, it would be a shock. It would be something that they would, and especially if they stuck to it, they would be like, oh my gosh, hey guys, I do all these things, I train really hard, and I really focus on what I'm eating, and I stick to my meal plan, and hey, I made it to these, won these shows like that. To it almost becomes so just a part of your life that whenever you get around other people that do it, that you, especially the people that I feel like looked up to, when you get to that level, it's that imposter syndrome is it's inevitable. It's something that, oh, I didn't realize these people were doing the same things. To me, you just see, and then now with social media, it's a little bit different, I guess, but you just see the outcome. You just see oh my gosh, these people are almost superhuman. They're achieving all these crazy things. And then you get there by doing these small things and these small, winning these small battles, and you don't realize how special that is. You don't, I guess, appreciate how special that is sometimes. But from looking at somebody else's life, you can appreciate. It's so weird how you can notice somebody else doing really well, but then at the same time, it's hard for you to realize what you're doing well.
Yeah. And that's so true because, like you said, social media is a little bit different because we do get a bit more glimpse into their lives more now than prior, but still it's a very small glimpse into what's really happening. And like I said earlier, we're all just normal people. We still have jobs. A lot of us still, are working 8 hours a day or whatever it is. And we are just people, living normal lives and working and still bodybuilding, but still make this a lifestyle. And it's, it's definitely, like I said, it's just that mutual respect, just because I know we all know what we went through to get there is very different.
Yeah. So kind of switching gears in perspectives, as a coach, what do you think it is that whether it's in bodybuilding specifically or just somebody who wants to achieve a certain physique just because, what do you think it is? Is it more you feel like in the gym that holds people back? Like whether that's just assuming they're consistent with it, whether that's like, hey, you're not working, you're not intense enough, you're not, getting enough rest maybe, or you're not, your form isn't right. Or do you think it's more about the diet nutrition side of things that more people are struggling with?
It's mental, 100% mental. I have a lot of people come up and go, hey, do you think I can do this? Do you think I can physically get there? 100%. I think anyone can physically get there at some point. It's up here. It's if you can get there, if you can fight for it, because it is not easy. There are sacrifices that are going to have to be made. There are lifestyle changes and habits that have to be in place for this to be successful and for them to be successful. So I think the hardest thing for everybody is the mental side of it, because and even if they do get up to that show, then post show, the mental side of it too, because you go through that body change and being prepared for that, because you can look your 100% best, not be your healthiest, but look really great. But now we have to get you back to optimal health. And they're not ready for that because they looked amazing and they're not ready to get that body fat back on. So it's 100% the mental aspect of it that I think is the hardest thing for competitors.
In that mental aspect, do you see it more just strictly with the people that you're around as wanting to do too much? Do you feel like it's like, I'm so motivated that I want to do more, or do you think that sometimes that it's more like you're backing off maybe a little bit too much?
Honestly, I've seen both sides of it. But I would say, if anything, I think the ones that are backing off too much because how do I say that? They don't have the lifestyle and the habit in place already. So they're just going, they think it's just gonna be this diet for 3 months and they're good to go. But they don't understand that there's a daily habit and a daily routine and daily things that have to be done. And they're not willing to make those sacrifices, I guess. And I don't even like to call them sacrifices, but they aren't willing to make those changes. So I would say, if anything, it's the ones that aren't pushing hard enough in that aspect, as far as willing to change their daily habits and routines.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times too, and I've noticed within my own life, like hitting that first roadblock, like, oh, I have this motivation to start, and I'm really excited about the potential, and I'm really excited about achieving this goal. And then that first roadblock comes, whether it's like something with work, whether it's something personal, even something like, oh, the gym's shut down for a week because they're doing something in there. And it's like, how do you overcome that? How do you, like, I think that's where most people typically fail. They can't get through that first roadblock.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, a lot of time when I have clients that do that, usually I'll use a story from myself or a story from another competitor, like, oh, this is how this person handled it. Do you think you can do this? Is this something we can do to help you with that? Will this help you get over that leap? Most of the time, obviously, it's when they're starting to get really hungry and a birthday comes up or an anniversary comes up, or they're like, but it's just one meal, or it's just one dessert, or it's just one. Yeah, but you're 3 weeks out from a show. You're 6 weeks out from a show. Like, we have to nail this right now. Like, no, we don't have, we that birthday. Yeah, it happened in March, but you can celebrate it in a couple of months. Like, you can celebrate it later. So usually a lot of time I'll coach them through that, as far as reminding them that you set this goal. Let's get to that end goal. But then here's how we can work around that. or here's a story of how I worked around this, or this competitor did this. Go talk to this person. What did they do when this popped up? So that they know that there's people out there that have dealt with the same situation, been in that same situation, and they were still able to overcome it and get past it. And I said, if the stage isn't ready for you right now, there's another stage some other time. Like if this isn't something you can do, the stage will always be there. So if this isn't something that you can commit to right now, then we don't commit to it, and that's fine. We can move on and pick a different date. Not a huge deal. But yeah, I try to just share with them stories of how we're going to get over this, or help them get over it and talk them through. But like I said, usually it's more like when they start getting hungry, it's having those conversations of, but it's just one.
And going through a prep, I think it's such an interesting thing because it's almost like it's so different from any other sport. Like if you're getting ready for a sport, for like a game, you're trying to like optimize your health. You're trying to optimize, like think about how can I like go into this fully fed and like fully hydrated, fully ready to go for this thing. And in prep, it's like almost like a very, very opposite thing. So there's like everything matters, right? Like what you eat, when you eat, how you eat, when you train, how you train, like how much sleep you get every single night, there, and so much more. Like all that stuff matters. So how do you, as a coach, or maybe like what would you consider like and I guess it's different for everybody. And I have like multiple questions that I want to ask within this one question, but like, how do you like consider something a success or successful in terms of like, okay, we did X% of things well, I'm considering that a successful prep? Like, is it a standard 80%, 90%, 95%, or does it kind of differ for each person and each level at each experience?
It definitely differs because everyone's experience is so different for sure. So that one's a tough question to answer. um, yeah, I guess I that one kind of stumps me a little bit because I'm thinking of all my different clients and all their different successes and what they were, and it was just based off of, where did they start mentally at the start of this prep versus where they're at now. And obviously the mental health side of it is the important part too, but that they still, yes, it's going to be challenging, and yes, it's going to be hard, but that they're still enjoying the process. Because going back to that, still making sure that they're enjoying the process, and they know that there's an end and a goal to be reached with the sacrifices or the whatever that they're making at this point. So God, that's a tough question. I guess the success is if they're still, yeah, they're struggling and they're tired and they're miserable, but they're like, yeah, I'm still ready to go. Like I'm still enjoying this because I know I'm working to be the best that I can be right now.
And how, like, what is the reality of checking off every single box every single day, as far as like, yes, you can say like, I ate everything I was supposed to eat. I worked out every day. I did all these things, but like, when you get even more specific with that, right? Like, is there, do you believe that there's such thing as a truly a perfect prep? Like, is there a possibility of that?
I think it's way too hard because we're not just dealing with, I mean, there's so many things we're dealing with. Our hormones in general is going to make it a not so perfect prep. It could be one night, just your hormones are off a little bit, so you're not going to sleep well because your cortisol levels are shot or whatever the case may be. So as far as being a perfect prep, I can't imagine that anyone has said that they've had a perfect prep. Because something's gonna, you're hungry. You're especially closer to a show. You're hungry. It's gonna be hard to go to sleep and your body aches because you're not able to recover as well because you're hungry and your calories are low. So I can't imagine there's a perfect prep out there.
And with the Masters Olympia, returning, I saw you had a video on it. I can't remember what it was, but talking about, hopefully being a part of that. But in general, is and I'm sure it is because they probably wouldn't have done it, but it just seems like it from the time of like April to August, like what's the what's like that time frame? Is that enough of a time frame for somebody to truly like bring their best, or like have that, or do you think that they have to be moving on it beforehand to really make it the opportunity that they want?
I think that no matter what, I think if you're a master's competitor and you're applying for it, you're in prep right now. Like your focus is there right now. Like I don't know if I'm going to make it in August. I don't know if I'm going to get the invite, but that doesn't mean I'm not working towards it right now. I am making sure my nutrition is dialed. I'm still following both my coaches' plans. I'm still making sure I'm on top of it, just in case in April they say yes. So I can't imagine there's not someone out there that's still just in the heart of it. And starting in April and giving us that much time, yes. But here's why: we're also professionals. We're also staying on top of our health and nutrition as it is anyways, and making sure that we're in a good spot by April to be ready by August. So yeah, I think it's plenty of time because we're already that date is already in our head. So we're already shooting for that date for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, you said that, you're just staying on top of things anyway, but it's just it's amazing. Like they're only taking a very limited number of people, and you have all these other people who are just like, it's like you're hoping you get selected, and
Right.
but you're still doing all this work. It's got to be like a psychological thing too, to get to that point and not have the opportunity, in August to.
For sure. And so I'll tell you right now, I plan on probably doing a show prior to that anyways, um, just leading up to it. So I'm sure I mean, if anyone's like me, I'm looking at the schedule right now. The schedule's out for the most part. They're going to probably make some additions here in the coming months, but we know what other master shows are out there that we can attend as well. So I'm sure they have other shows picked out like I do, you know. So whether that one happens or not, then okay, you know what? Here I am. I'm ready for my next one then.
And I think it's so cool that it is coming back, and because to me, bodybuilding has always been this thing of like the time aspect, right? And when you bring it back, it's like you're honoring people's commitment to the sport, of course, but also just the lifestyle of it, because this thing of bodybuilding, it's not just like, okay, we're getting paid millions of dollars, we can kind of chill, we can be with our team, we can go to practice, and it's something that most people do. Like you said, they have another job. It's just all this other commitment in their life that takes up so much time, so much money. And I feel like this is really like paying a respect to those people who have put in the decades, for some people who put in the decades of experience, of living the lifestyle. And it's like, hey, here's our appreciation. And I think it's really cool because now there's this new generation coming into bodybuilding as well. So it's also kind of like, hey, continue to show these new competitors like what bodybuilding truly is and how you can do it and do it well.
Yeah, I think it's awesome because if you look at a lot of the athletes that are out there now, and if you've been to some of the Masters pro shows, it's so impressive what these 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old, like I have a 7-year-old friend up in Tahoe, and she still looks phenomenal. She's 70, and I mean, it's just amazing. So and then, I mean, you look at, Dexter Jackson, great example. I mean, even watching Jay Cutler walking around, Like he still looks great. Like, and I'm not saying he's coming back, but I mean, just to see these physiques and how old they are, and 40 is over, 45 and over, and they still look just freaking phenomenal. So to allow them to have that stage and a place to go, and not be competing with the 20 somethings, because I can't. I like I said, my body is falling apart on me right now, and I'm 42. I can't keep up with what some of these 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds can do and what their bodies look like. So I think it's going to be really neat, because if you see some of these women, I think it's a lot of the time you can look at some of those women and go, oh my gosh, she's 50. Like there's especially some of these bikini women. Like I'm looking at them going, holy smokes, I would have never guessed you were in your 50s. So yeah, I think it's going to be really neat to see the caliber of athletes that will be at the Masters Olympia, because I think it'll be, I mean, a testament to just the hard work that they've put in for all these years and continue to put in, because there's some amazing athletes out there.
Yeah. I'm really excited for this season, this upcoming 2023 season. Really my first full year into the sport, starting from the very beginning. So just really getting to appreciate the full cycle of things. And
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be really cool. So, I look forward to, watching how it unfolds, who does what with the shows, and just kind of getting, full circle again this time next year, and see, what else I've learned, and who else I've talked to. And hopefully, people like you continue to come on and share their knowledge and their wisdom.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for having me, Daniel. Any intentions on going to Florida next year for the Olympia?
I think so. I mean, as far as I know, I hope it becomes kind of like a tradition. So I think
Yeah.
so.
And that's a neat venue because everything's right there. So that was the bonus of the Florida one, because everything was right there, not different venues. But yeah, so hopefully we'll see you in Florida too.
Yeah, for sure. I look forward to kind of getting around to the different events this year. I want to try to hit more of them. We're going to go to the Arnold, so that's going to be fun.
Nice.
Look forward to going to maybe, I'm here in Kentucky, so there's not like one that's super close, like a pro show that's super close, but maybe just hitting up one or two more this year, and then just kind of going from there, and just kind of seeing where it takes me. That's kind of been the fun part of this whole thing.
Yeah, perfect.
If you want to let people know though where they can find you on social media and all that stuff before you head out, you can do that.
Yeah, the best place to find me is on Instagram at Shelace _IFBB Pro. And Shelace is SHELACE.